What are you at, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Lycos, and this is my 2023 new player guide for No Man's Sky. Whether you're a new or returning player, this video should help you with all the ins and outs of this amazing game. Now, this new player guide is going to be a more slow-paced guide than I usually make, but you can still expect plenty of tips and tricks throughout the video. Early game tips so you can make lots of units, lots of nanites, tips on how to find the best ships, but also more basic info as well. When you start a new game now, you're going to be faced with this screen right here, where you basically choose the difficulty of your game, ranging from creative, where you can explore and create freely of any threats or challenges in the game, and then all the way to the other end of the spectrum will be survival, where the enemies and elements are much more challenging and resources are much more restricted. Now, you can also make a custom game where you can freely choose from a lot of different settings, where you can isolate different aspects of the game to make them as hard or easy as you want. You can also choose community expeditions here, where you're given very specific challenges, and if you succeed in all those challenges, you'll earn a bunch of unique rewards, almost like seasons in other games. But I would recommend that you're at least somewhat experienced with the game before you get into the expeditions. No Man's Sky at its core is a space exploration sim that's as hardcore or forgiving as you choose. Now, let's start off a new game. This is pretty much a normal playthrough with a couple of small tweaks. So it is a custom game, but it's pretty close to a normal playthrough. Now, the first thing you're going to notice when you start out a new game is that you're on a hazardous planet and your hazard protection is draining. And once that drains all the way down, you're going to suffer damage until you die. But don't worry too much. You'll have plenty of time to get your hazard protection back up. The game is going to walk you through this step by step. The first thing you need to do is to get your scanner repaired, and in order to do this, we're going to need ferrite dust. Ferrite dust is found in the rocks that are scattered all over the planet. They are very easy to find. We're going to use our mining tool on that, and we're going to be able to get the 75 ferrite dust that we need very quickly. Once we have our ferrite dust, we're going to go into our inventory to be able to repair our scanner. The game guides you through all of this step by step by the prompts down in the right hand corner, and it will actually even tell you every button that you need to press. So just remember, if you ever get confused, just read the text down in the bottom right hand corner. We're going to activate the scanner by clicking on the left thumbstick. Now you're going to see a whole bunch of icons that's going to pop up onto your heads up display, but the game is going to tell us exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for sodium, and that shows up as a yellow icon that has Na on it. All of the other icons that are popping up, like the red O2, we're going to be using later on, and I'll explain that when we get to it. Now, we're looking for these yellow glowing flowers. We're going to grab these to get some sodium, and then we're going to go into a different menu by pressing down on the D-pad. You need to click on the battery icon. This will allow you to recharge any of your rechargeable equipment. Now, whenever I refer to any buttons, I'm going to be talking about the PlayStation because that's what I'm playing on. But as I said before, then in the bottom right hand corner, the game is going to be taking you through step by step, even telling you every button that you need to press. You'll see here, as we're heading towards our next objective, that I'm using a little speed boost trick. All you need to do this is to sprint, then hit your melee button and immediately use your jetpack. Be careful when you're doing this. This can be dangerous if your jetpack runs out when you're at a great height. Now, this is a good time for us to talk about our heads up display. Let's start with the bottom right of the screen. Periodically, you're going to see three little icons down there. One is for your jetpack, one is for your sprint, and the other is for your scanner. And you'll notice that each one of them drains and recharges. These icons indicate when these things are on cooldown, or in case of your sprint and your jetpack, it shows you how much energy they have left. Over on the left hand side, you've got your hazard protection, which we were talking about before. Below that, we have our life support, which we also need to recharge. We recharge that with oxygen. Those are small red flowers that you're going to see scattered across the planets. If you do get injured, you'll see up in the top left-hand corner is where your health is. And up in the top right-hand corner, if you're using your multi-tool, you'll see the charge that's left on your mining beam. And those are some of the important things you need to be paying attention to on your heads-up display. Now, we've made it to our ship, but the first thing that we got to do is interact with this machine AI thing. But before we do that, I'm actually going to show you how to switch to first person. So if you'd rather play the game in first person, just press down on the D-pad again, head over to the little settings cog, click on that, and then find the icon that looks like your character. Whenever you do this, you'll switch from third person to first person, or if you're already in first person, you'll switch back to third person. Now, once we interact with this machine, it will actually set us down the path of No Man's Sky's story. And yes, there is a story in No Man's Sky, The story certainly isn't the main focus of this game. It's nothing too elaborate, but I did enjoy it my first time through. There's a damaged machine here. I recommend checking out every one of these that you see early on in the game, because they can give you some pretty good rewards, and most of the time they give you nanites, which you're definitely going to want a lot of. Now we need to repair our ship. The game does a very good job of guiding you through all of the steps that you need to take to repair your ship. We're going to be crafting several components, and one very important thing that we're going to unlock here is the portable refiner. You're going to be using the portable refiner and other refiners all the way through your playthrough. Refiners are a very important tool in the game, very useful for crafting, and later on it's going to be very useful for making lots of units. Another important tool that you're going to unlock is the analysis visor. You're going to be able to scan things like the plants and animals, and it's actually a pretty decent way to make units early on in the game. And if you get the proper upgrades for it, you can actually make a ton of units by just scanning things. It's only going to take you a short time to get your ship up and running, and then we're taking off to the stars. As I'm leaving the planet, I take a screenshot using the photo mode. I really enjoy using the photo mode in this game. You can get some really epic shots sometimes. And who knows, maybe I'll even use this photo for the thumbnail of the video. Now the game is going to guide us to our next planet. There's a bunch of important things that we're going to learn on this planet. The first thing that you might come across is a sentinel. These can be a dangerous enemy in the game, but for right now, as long as you make sure not to mine too much around these sentinels, they shouldn't be a problem. They will definitely get interested in you if you mine a ton in close proximity to them. We're going to learn how to build our first base, which is one of my favorite things to do in the game. The base building in this game is one of the best in my opinion. Base building is a lot of fun, but it also will give you a ton of perks as well, which you'll see later on in the video. But for right now, I'd recommend just building a little shack just to get that part of the tutorial out of the way. Usually I just build all of the things that they prompt me to build, and then I move on. We're also going to unlock the terrain manipulator for our multi-tool. The terrain manipulator is a crucial tool in the game. You're going to be using it for different stuff, including mining and digging things up that are buried in the ground. Now one thing they're going to get you to do on this planet with your terrain manipulator is to dig up some salvage data. So we're going to be looking for some buried technology. There are tons and tons of blueprints to learn for your base building in this game. So you're going to want a lot of salvage data, and I mean a lot. But also, if at some point you need a little extra cash, salvage data sells for a very good price. Once we finish all of this and we leave the planet, we're going to be heading to the space station. Some key features that you're going to want to know about here on the space station. First off, the ship outfitter. This station is very important later on in the game. You're going to be able to upgrade your ship here. You can upgrade the class, and you can increase the inventory space of your ship. And also you can scrap unwanted ships and get components that you can sell for quite a few units. I'll talk a little more about this station later on, but as for now, let's move on to the character customization station. For anyone who wants to customize the look of your character, this is where you do it, and there are a ton of different options for you to go through. Also on this side, you've got a bunch of different upgrade vendors. You got an upgrade vendor for your suit. You can increase your suit's inventory. Every time you go to a space station, you're going to want to visit this guy so you can get an extra slot to store more stuff. There's also a vendor for your exocrafts, which is the vehicles that you'll be getting later on in the game, for your ship and for your multi-tool. And here you can buy a new multi-tool, and then besides that you can upgrade your multi-tool here as well. On the other side of the space station, you've got the galactic trade vendor, very important for buying and selling items. The galactic trade is also very good once you get a nice few units. You can stock up on resources that you're using often. Not something that you need to worry about right now, but something that you might want to look into later on. There are other NPCs over here that will give you missions, and then there's another one that will sell you charts so you can find different things on planet. Things like alien buildings and stuff like that. And then lastly, we have the teleporter. So you can teleport back to your base, or you can teleport to previous stations that you visited. Now the last thing that I want to talk about here on the space station is that there are constantly ships flying in and out. So you can check out these ships to see if there's one that you want to buy, and you can also buy and sell things to the pilots. After we leave the space station, we're going to be given some more missions in order to unlock your warp drive and to be able to travel from system to system. Again, the game does a good job of walking you through this step by step. I'm not going to touch on this too much, but one thing that I do want to talk about is something that you're going to be coming across very soon, which is the anomaly. And after I talk to you about the anomaly for a bit, then I'm going to give you a few extra tips and tricks. The anomaly is a huge part of the game. It's a space station that you're going to unlock shortly after you get your warp drive, and this place is actually crucial to many mechanics of the game. It's a player hub. You unlock a ton of different upgrades and building blueprints here. You can get multiplayer missions here and much more. So the first thing that I want to talk about, once you arrive here and you go through the whole step by step introducing yourself to different NPCs here, which the game takes you through, the game is actually going to guide you to a certain area of the anomaly where you're going to be able to unlock a ton of different blueprints. Right here you've got NPCs that will unlock blueprints for your ship, suit, multi-tool, exocrafts, and more. You will also be able to get an extra inventory slot here. So for every system that you go to, you can get an inventory slot on the anomaly and on the space station. This is another place where you have a chance to purchase a new multi-tool, and it's the main location where you unlock blueprints for base building. This is where you're going to be spending all of your salvage data. Other notable locations on the anomaly is the Nexus, where you get multiplayer missions. Now you can do these solo as well. These missions have some excellent rewards, so you're going to want to take advantage of this. One of the mission rewards that you can get is Quicksilver, a very unique currency in the game. Just over to the right of the Nexus is the Quicksilver vendor, and you can buy a ton of unique items from this vendor. You can also pick up your expedition rewards here, and you can pick up Twitch rewards here. One little tip before we move on: if you hang out in this location for a while, or you go AFK in this location, sometimes you might have a really friendly player that'll come along and possibly give you some very valuable items. A few things that I recommend that you pick up here on the anomaly for your base building. One very important thing is a medium refiner. This is also where you unlock your exocrafts if you want to get a vehicle. Those are really fun to use going around on the planets. And personally, early on, I like to pick up some of the prefabs. Now let's talk about a really good location for your base. Where I build 90% of my bases is actually next to a trading post, similar to this one. I just happened to stumble upon this trading post early on in my playthrough, but on the anomaly, you can actually get a ship blueprint called the economy scanner, and you can use that when you're out in space, and it will show you where the closest trading post is. So when you find one of these, I highly recommend that you build a base near it, because it really comes in handy for selling items. There's always a galactic trade here, and you can sell to the pilots, plus you might find really cool ships that you want to buy, and it's just a really cool looking place to build a base. Now, one last tip that I want to talk about is how to make a lot of units, and at the same time, this will really help you get a lot of nanites for your ship upgrades, multi-tool upgrades, and so on. This is very straightforward, and you can do it early on in your game. You're going to want to build at least one medium refiner, and then at a space station, you're going to want to buy up a bunch of oxygen and a little bit of chlorine. You're going to be able to get this from the pilots that are flying in and out. So you're going to buy up as much oxygen as you can get, and you only need a couple pieces of chlorine. Usually I get 10. So after you have a ton of oxygen and that little bit of chlorine, you're going to go back to your base and you're going to build your medium refiner, or a couple of medium refiners if you want to do this method even quicker. When you put both oxygen and chlorine into a medium refiner, you're going to make more chlorine, and because that's worth so much more than the oxygen, you're making a ton of units doing this. Then while your refiners are making the chlorine for you, visit one of the pilots that's coming in and out of the trade post that you're building your base at, or if you chose not to do that, you just need to use your teleporter to go back to a space station, sell it to the pilots there. Don't sell it to the galactic trade, because you'll eventually end up crashing the market in that system, and then your chlorine won't be worth nearly as much. So make sure you sell to the pilots, because that doesn't affect the price, and using this method you can just get an infinite amount of units. Then if you want to use those units to get a lot of nanites as well, you can go up to a space station and you can start buying ships that are flying in and out. I recommend that you buy ships that are around 1 to 2 million, and usually B to A class. Then you're just going to scrap that ship. You're going to get some of the money back that you spent on it, but really what we're looking for here is the upgrades, and you're going to sell those upgrades at the upgrade vendor for nanites. So now you know a good method to get lots of units and a good method to get lots of nanites. Now here's some bonus rapid fire tips. If you run out of fuel while you're out in space, don't worry, wherever you are in space, you're not going to be far from some asteroids, and all you need to do is shoot these for some tritium, and then you can recharge your engines. Not to mention you'll get other valuable things like silver and gold. Throughout your playthrough, one thing that you're going to come across from time to time is crashed ships. Now most of the time, in my opinion, these ships are too much trouble. These ships are more trouble than they're worth. It's going to cost you a lot of resources in order to fix them. But if you just fix the basic components, the engines and the thrusters, you can take off, bring it to the space station, and scrap it. This way you'll get some components that you can sell for a good amount of units, and you'll also get a ship upgrade, maybe even a couple, and sometimes you'll get an augmentation unit to increase the inventory storage in your ship. Now my actual final tip of this video is how to find the best ship for you. There's a reason why I said I build 90% of my bases at a trading post. Trading posts are the best place to go ship hunting, and if you have a base at a bunch of different trading posts, you will drastically increase your chance of getting a really good ship. Hope you guys found this video useful. I appreciate you watching. Hit that like button if that's what you're into, and as always, stay where you're at and I'll come where you're to. Later everyone.